Welcome, everyone, to episode 4 of the Heart of the Shaman podcast with Pavan and Betty G. Today, we are going to be discussing ritual and crystal magic. And we've already discovered that there's so much to delve in to around crystals related to shamanism and the way we work and how they've also influenced our experience that we want to share with you, that there is likely another podcast in this with that aspect. But coming into the holiday season, also, we were feeling like there is a lot of light energy around the crystals, and to share some of the properties and some of how you can work with them. And also to I'm going to say shift some of the heavier energies that have been coming through in 2024. So we've got a good amount to delve into. The other piece, ritual, they're very connected, very integrated. So crystals have been used in ritual since the beginning of time. Ritual has been used in shamanism and really in every culture since the beginning of time. So we're going to weave through these topics together. And maybe I'll just share a little bit with my personal experience with ritual that came up in the past couple of weeks. And so it was really interesting. These synchronicities come up where you feel like it's more than a sign, right? It's kind of the magic of what's moving in our life experience. And so I was reading a book in the Wellness Book Club at Remedy where there was a whole chapter on ritual. It's The Wild Edge of Sorrow by Francis Weller. And then in conjunction with that, I also had a board meeting with Life Force Arts Center, which is a shamanic nonprofit organization out in Chicago. So I'm on the board there, and we just have 2 meetings a year. But in the meeting, Joan, who is really the founder of Life Force and everything there, she said, we create healing ritual through the arts. And it just hit me so hard. The conversation really took a whole direction after that. And she has an arts background, but I studied with her back in 2012, and I did some of my first shamanic training there. And with my own personal experience this past year, and then how the work has been moving with clients and in classes, ritual has been coming up as so important. And we know that it's always been important. It's always been a part of our experience, even if you don't have a certain religion or something where the ritual might be more obvious. We have it in the common culture. We have rituals for, getting married or graduation or these different initiation points. But the way that it's coming up is the energy behind it allows us to really connect with our life experience in a deeper, more passionate way. And it allows us to make meaning of things. And it creates these energetic impressions, these constellations throughout maybe like the arc of a year, I'll say, where we can then reconnect with those at any point. But we'll delve into this more, Betty. I'll defer to you to weigh in on this. It's just been coming up so strong in so many different ways.
Well, I think that people do rituals, whether they even are aware of it or not. They have certain ways that they do things. Like it's more of, they would consider it maybe a habit or a good luck, something, that brings them luck. Like they always carry something, or they always have something around them, or they always do something a certain way. And I think that we are doing that from our memory of ancient times when we did have more ritual, and there was more, that was kind of what the community did. So individually, we have things like certain jewelry we wear. People always wear a certain hat when they go fishing. And even to that degree, it's
Yes.
ritual and it's ceremony and it's things that we believe in, you know. I'm not even sure that it's something that does have an effect on a person, but if they believe that it does, or they have the intention that it will do something, then it probably does. That's a
Mm-hmm.
quantum thing, that would be a whole different podcast. but talking about the quantum effect of our thoughts and how we get to that point where we make things happen and we are creators and we don't remember that we're creating, but we are creating.
Well,
It's
and that makes me think of ritual in a collective sense when there's, a group coming together for a certain purpose. And, if everyone is in alignment with intention or the belief around whatever it is, there's an energy beyond your own energy within the context of that container. And that becomes so powerful. It's a different type of impression and experience than if you're doing a ritual on your own, which also can be extremely impactful. And as we're going to talk about, it's never really on your own. If you're doing it without other people in human form, you may be bringing in the crystals for your ritual. And so over time, they have really become friends of mine and they have their own personalities and aspects. But you may also be connecting with your spirit guides, or connecting with the energies of the earth, like when we discussed the elements in the other podcasts. It's like they have their own spirit. So you're really in some sense always doing it, I think, in a collective way. But I've definitely had some experiences also in a group with other people, the earthbound realm, where it has been so charged that collective intention really can transform things. And I think that there's an upliftment and a hope around that, bringing that into our lives more, or at least the possibility of it, especially going into the new year, that is very empowering.
Well, in the cave dwellings, the things that are written on the walls or that are inscribed, I don't know if they're written, but drawn or whatever, the crystals form in caves and they come from the minerals of and from water and the elements. And you're when you go back to the beginning of shamanism, which we're bringing forward into this time in our lives, you and I are trying to do that. You think about if you just were to go back into the cave, probably just the energy that's generated from the way that humans lived in those days and the way that people um, gave the information to the future generations, the way that they tried to preserve it by drawing it on, placing it in a place where it would be seen, but not readily. And it's where the minerals and the water and the crystals formed. So the crystals were witnessing all of this. The crystals
Yes.
were in a way absorbing this energy. And I think that they're like messengers. They have their own messages to bring us, and it's been that way since time began. I think that probably humans were more aware of their properties, and that came forward with us being told that they didn't have properties, that they were just beautiful or they were just rocks or maybe they had no meaning or purpose. But we know that they do, and we know that they're alive and that they have their own way of communicating. And so I think that we were told they did not, so that we wouldn't enhance our own power and our own abilities, magic or psychic awareness or whatever intuitiveness would be enhanced by these stones. And we were told that they would not, so we didn't acknowledge them for a long time, or we were steered away from that, I guess. And I find that kind of sad. I try not to dwell on it, but I think there's such a part of my life, like you said, you have them around. I have this on today, the labradorite, and it's just
Yes, me
I'm
too.
we both without talking about it, we both wore our shamanic stones, and they are the beginning of shamanism with labradorite to bring us into the psychic world or the other dimensions and the journeys that the shaman took for the healing and for making things vibrate correctly, into the right vibration, to bring people into it, to bring their health back to center. And there's just no end to what happened in those days in those caves. And if you acknowledge the crystals and their history, they're older than anything. They were there at the beginning. So
It's really incredible. And there's also this awareness that earlier on in history, there was so much more ritual, and likely there was more knowledge around the crystals before whatever time it was that we were really told, there's no significance here. And so to be coming back to the beginning, which we were talking about before we jumped on here, feels so important. And another thing that you mentioned that just feels, I mean, it's really, I'm having almost like trouble articulating it because it's so deep, but the crystals have their own properties, right? So you can look them up, and you can look them up on Google, you can look them up in a book, and it'll say, oh, this is good for a whole list of different things. But it's not coming from the mental plane. It's like they have this spirit, this energy, this personality. And when you connect with that, you have a knowing, you have this knowing and awareness of those properties. And the crystals, and you were saying this, but I'm really feeling it right now. They help amplify your intuition and your own knowing. And so even that message at some point that, oh, they're just stones coming from whoever it was coming from, and there's no meaning there. Clearly, there was some manipulation, and we don't have to, go down a rabbit hole with that, but around not wanting us to be connected with our intuition and our knowing. And so to know now, or, to just be able to honor the fact that we can have a relationship with the crystals where they are allies, and there is this back and forth there, this true relationship, this reciprocity. It's very powerful. And I will say, over the years, there's certain ones that I've been drawn to at different times for different things. And they are like friends, and it has come in that way, which, I'll share more on, but it's just really incredible.
Well, a crystal, when you program it, and we'll go into that maybe in another podcast, we can touch lightly on it. You acquaint yourself with them, you're drawn to buy them or to find them or whatever, and they're given as gifts, and they're always significant when they come into your life. But if you program your crystals, you ask them to work on your behalf. But then when you put them down and whatever you have tried to accomplish or have an effect on is over, you can deprogram the crystal. But you also want to add to that, if you're working on my behalf in another dimension, then I free you and let you do that. You can stay programmed as long as you need to be helping me. And then they'll come back to you and you can deprogram them. But they might be working on another level, even though you don't need them in your dimension, which is
Right.
very, because they're so capable of doing that. And so that brings us into what the scientists are figuring out now about the quantum physics and quantum mechanics, and everything in our technology was based on quartz crystal. Every watch, every computer, our phones, everything is based with quartz crystal. And I don't think a lot of people know that, but that's the beginning of this technology. So now that we've had 100 years or so of quantum physics, the scientists are starting to be able to prove so many things that before seemed out there or not reachable from the normal intellect, from our left brain society. So it's kind of interesting that they can continue their work of something you have an intention to put into them. They'll go on working for you. And isn't that an interesting connection? It's like
Right.
they're friends.
Absolutely.
They're like the messengers, and they're sending things, to the higher dimensions. And how can you beat that? I mean, you can do
Hmm.
that with your phone. I find that,
Yeah.
I
And
find that.
acknowledging, right, that it's just a great understanding and acknowledgement that there's so much more. I mean, the different dimensions is something that comes into shamanism, where when we go into a journey, we're traveling into these different dimensions, or if we're meditating, we're connecting with them. But this is another angle of that, the crystals working in multiple dimensions or spaces. I almost want to say it feels like a cozy validation that there's just so much more to the experience than our current lived experience. And there's many ways that we can have an awareness of that really like in all time, in every moment. So yeah, the crystals working kind of in the background or whatever programming that might be for our higher good, that we're not aware of in the moment. I love that.
Yeah. It's really, I think, this is one of the biggest subjects that we could have chosen, and we should do maybe a series of crystal podcasts where we can talk about um, the various ways that you choose them, the way that you are drawn to the colors and the formations and different forms of crystal, and the things
Yes.
that you can use them in spaces, you can use them in grids for protection, for abundance, for everything that you need in your physical third dimensional life. You can have their assistance, and there's so many levels of it and there's so many variations that it has to be broken down because
Mm-hmm.
it's just too vast. And I
Yes.
they're it's an important part of anybody on a spiritual journey. If you're trying to become awakened or enlightened, or if you are trying to enhance your spiritual journey and learn more, you need to actually incorporate crystals in your life. And, even some people make elixirs from the crystals. They put them in water, and the water is a big component. Of course, another element. We're going.
Right.
These are all things that were used before we even knew about medication or plant medicine. These are things that the shaman used, and especially the labradorite, because this is the shaman stone.
Mm-hmm.
It creates magic and ability to connect. And I think it's like it allows the awareness of having something on your body that's making you be able to have your intuitive mind over your rational mind, where you sort out the things that we're programmed to believe or think we need to incorporate. And the labradorite creates that ability to go from this dimension to another, and just travel, like when you're doing your journeys with your shamanic treatments. You have to take away the rational mind and the programmed computer, the hard drive, and
Right.
put in the intuitive psychic awareness of the other dimensions, because that's where we find the answers, that's where we find the magic.
It's a real shifting gears. It's like you're putting on another hat, or some other energy is coming into the driver's seat. It
Right.
feels like something like that. So, yes, to have the labradorite help to amplify that, it's very powerful. But it
Well, when
feels, I don't
I'm
want
sorry.
to exactly say necessary, but maybe, it's like you're not doing it on your own. You're bringing in these other energies for support and also to create a more powerful container and experience.
Well, when you look at labradorite in the field and you're out searching for it, it's an ugly gray silverish rock.
Yeah,
Even show you its beauty. It doesn't
right.
even hides in this dimension from the average person, right? But if you know
Hmm.
what's inside, it's kind of like a person. You don't see their inside, you don't see their heart, you see their personality or their persona. So this rock you could be standing right next to it. If you cut it open, you see this.
Right. It's just got this amazing iridescent rainbow sheen. It's so neat.
They call it labradorescence.
Oh, I love that.
And,
Yes.
and and when you think about it, that much beauty and that much color and that much vibration is inside this ugly gray rock. There's a
Hmm.
reason why Creator hid that. it's not going to be found by just the average person. A diamond sparkles and you catch it, and it has all the prisms and everything. Oh, that's a diamond, it's so beautiful. And
Right.
you grab it right away, or gold or something like that. But this is a magical stone that has so much ability, and it's right in front of us. We could be standing right on it. And I find that fascinating. I just find that
Yeah.
amazing that that creator hid that, but the shaman knew, you know,
Right.
they found it, they discovered and the magic of it is you can walk by it every day. And each time you walk by it, the way that the light is in your space, it has a different message. It has a different quality that catches your eye. The colors are so beautiful and it changes as you walk past it. So I feel like that is, one of the beginning um, assistants to the shaman. They probably discovered that, and I would imagine it was everywhere in their caves and on their bodies. And I would like to know. I wish I could go back in time.
Right. Well, and that, right, the hiding and then the beauty within it, I mean, it's so connected to uh, sort of the focus of what we're doing, also going into this inner space where the truth is. So, it's hidden, but yeah, like contained inside all of this, like not just beauty, but I feel like the energy of infinity. It's like it just goes on and on. Like you were saying, it catches the light. There's different messages. There's just so much there. And today we're scratching the surface of this. Part of how this came through was, we're in the holiday season and crystals can make really, really great gifts because of the different properties. It can be, pretty personal when you're choosing it, but then also for clearing and cleansing, which we'll get into a little bit more, being really important. And then moving energy. So those were some of I would say the three core things that were coming up. And I'll say I have a selenite wand here. And so I have one of these at work and I have one at home and I have mini ones in my car. And so I like to use it in between sessions to be a part of the ritual to clear the energy and to set up for whatever comes next. But then at home, just throughout the day, I'd like to use this in the morning as a part of my meditation practice to just clear my energy from anything from sleeping, anything subconscious, anything at night, to feel like I'm starting in a fresh way. And then oftentimes towards the end of the day too, I come home and even if I've cleansed, I might be feeling a little bit funky or something might come up. Maybe, I mean, this is just an example, but maybe there's some kind of, confrontation with my husband or just something that comes up where afterwards your energy is off and things are out of balance. And so then it becomes a really great tool to go into a space. And I'm like kind of sweeping it around the whole body in a circular motion. And you can feel, and this is something that comes with that increased sensitivity as you work with different energies more, that like it's pulling taffy is kind of what it feels like. It'll pull out whatever is there that is ready to go or be released to help balance things. So it's really kind of a cool, calming sensation. But that's a part of my regular practice, the cleansing. And the selenite, that's really the main property. I have it in the corners of my house also. So to keep the house cleansed and to keep the energy contained, that's just part of a ritual that I did to keep the energy a certain way at home in that space of comfort. So this is probably my favorite one. There are other crystals that have, I mean, for cleansing anyway, there's others that, have that same property, but it feels so like this is a wand. I don't know. It feels so magical. And so, yeah, it's a striated, for those of you listening, it's like a striated, clearer, cloudy stone. But you can easily find it online or in a crystal shop as well. And really powerful tool.
This is one that I have a little piece of it at the base of my
Yeah.
computer, and it's important to mention that anybody who works with technological advancing.
Yes.
Right now we're going into the 5G, and we have all of these devices around us constantly, and this is magical for eliminating the EMFs from your
Mm.
environment. So if you have a computer, I put it in front of mine. I have towers that I put near anything, the TV, anything that emits the EMFs. This is protecting our physical body from it. And it's also, I'm going to mention, this is one of the crystals that you do not put in water. You don't cleanse this
Right.
water. This is, it will dissolve, so, but it's capable of clearing such a huge amount of negative the part of our technology that's negative. Let me say,
Hmm.
there's so much that's positive and that's crystal based, but we also have to remember that it's emitting into our atmosphere that we don't want that there. So these around your computer, you can buy small ones, they're inexpensive. It's a wonderful tool to keep our bodies safer.
Yes. Um, Another one that I have often on the computer is hematite. So
Hmm.
there's less of a focus of cleansing here and more on protection and fortification. So this feels like it acts, it's kind of got, it's a crystal that, or a stone that has this metallic sheen. And that's hematite, another one that's pretty readily available. But the energy feels like it bounces off it. So it creates this protective field where if you have it, by the computer, or if you're using it in that way, the energy isn't going past the aura of the hematite of the stone, if that makes sense. But it's kind of creating a wall. And so this is one, and I think I may have mentioned this actually in our last podcast, but this is one of the ones that when I'm in a meditation and I'm tuning into my own energy field and fortifying the energy field, hematite and also labradorite are two stones that in my inner vision, I feel and see the energy of these stones in my own field. And I feel like the hematite creates this, it's just a mirror and a bounce back in my whole energy field. Which, another thing I'll say about that that's really great is then you have multiple layers, right? So I've got the labradorite, this stone that I'm wearing if I'm, in a ritual, and then just also going through your day, whatever it looks like. And then that meditation, visualizing the hematite in the energy field, it's adding another layer. And as you work with these things more, you really can be in touch with how this shifts things and how it feels.
Yeah, I have, being a medium and a psychic, I have always kept hematite near me or wear a bracelet or have
Mm-hmm.
something near me because when I go into other dimensions or when I feel that there's an entity that's in a higher vibration or a higher density, a higher dimension, that energy, once it's in my body, is difficult to handle. And
Yes.
as a human, and I'm in this particular space, after that encounter, I oftentimes will shake, just violently, really, my body will just, tremble. And I always have to have hematite to ground me. And the moment that I touch it, it brings me back into this dimension and my normal state. But if I were not to wear that or have that near me, it's a very difficult process to bring myself back after that encounter. And I don't know if anyone else would care about that, but it's if you do
Yeah.
psychic work, you always need to have hematite near you, some kind of a stone, or I just have a bracelet and I can slip that on and it will instantly ground me and bring me back, from that higher connection. So that
I
might be
think
some people.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I, have had similar experiences with the shaking based on energies that you may be interacting with or bringing through. And it's like your nervous system is trying to calibrate to this energy that is foreign or I mean, it depends on the situation, right? But it could be like too strong or jarring. And so it speaks to how powerful hematite is, because to have it and to be able to hold it in that process or to make a connection with it, it feels like the hematite takes the energy. It like kind of just sucks it right out.
It transmutes it. Yeah, it
Yes.
transmutes, and
Yes.
I found, that it'll fry your nervous system. You can literally
Hmm.
fry your nervous system if you're not careful with this type of work. That's one of the reasons that years ago I stopped allowing for entities to enter my body as a full medium and speak through me, because it was such a drain on my physical being to have that energy in my nervous system and circulating through my body. And it felt like a real physical experience afterwards. It took me a couple of days to come back from allowing that. So I just now ask that they stay beside me and communicate with me. And I verbalize their message, but that is something that people that are intuitive or doing this type of work, they need to maybe know that. Maybe they don't already have that. I stumbled upon it. It just felt natural, and I grabbed hematite, and it was just amazing the way that it balanced me. So, just having that, I think spirit guided me to that so that I wouldn't fry my nervous system, because I was kind of a trooper, I didn't care. I would just kind of go in,
Right.
experience, and think that's what I had to do. And you don't have to do that to yourself, so.
I think that's a really important key thing. So it's related to if you do any type of healing work like this, but also if you're just a highly sensitive person, this applies. So it doesn't even have to be if the work is your focus necessarily, but sometimes, like you said, being a trooper, and it's just, I want to be in service to the person. So I'll let anything come through or be open to anything. Um, People will often ask me, well, aren't you so depleted after doing multiple sessions in a day? Like, oh my God, what does that do to your energy, as they're learning more about energy and whatever their own experience is? Like, what about you? And I feel so lucky to do this work and to be in this space and to hold the space for people. But I've also learned over time there's a way to, like you're saying, having the energy be over there outside the body. There's a way to be in this space where you receive the healing, the positive aspects of it, whatever that might look like in a given situation. And so it actually uplifts you and puts you in a higher vibration. But you also have boundaries and fortification and some of these tools in place all the time, so that you're not absorbing anything that's not meant for you, or it's a lower frequency. Or a big one is if people have a heavy emotion that they're experiencing, you can have an awareness of it, and you can have this empathetic experience of it, where you have a knowing, an intuitive knowing of what their experience is and feels like in that moment, without taking it on in a physical way and having a physical experience of their emotion in that moment. And that's a really key thing, because if you're doing a few sessions and you were to take the emotion into your body of the other, yes, that does have physical implications, and it's not a great idea. And maybe I'll say that, and it's like my opinion, but I do feel strongly about it. And there is a way to work where, again, you have the awareness and the knowing, and you're in that intuitive space, but physically and in these other layers, you're keeping that separate.
Well,
Um,
it's
yeah,
exhilarating. People ask me the same thing. Aren't you tired? After I used to do the psychic fairs, and every 20
right.
minutes, doing a reading for 30 people. And
Yeah.
actually, at the end of the day, people would think that you're completely depleted. And actually, I was exhilarated.
Hmm.
I feel that what I do, I have come, and maybe this is actually a form of a ritual, or a ceremony, but I have come to the place where I can separate the positive vibrations and take those in, but then figure out a way to get rid of the negative. And my body has gotten used to it, where I know what my balance is. And I get so exhilarated after a reading that it recharges me. I have like a jump start on the battery, like at the end of the day, I'm not tired. I'm excited and exhilarated, but not in a bad way. It's always very uplifting, like you said, it
Yes.
to a higher place because you know that you're opening up a communication line with the person here in this dimension and another entity or some pet or someone that they've lost in the other dimension. And when you know that you can do that, or you feel like you have done that, it's that itself is just a joy. It's something you can't describe. So I think you just need to be physically aware of your own boundaries, your own, you have kind of a alarm that goes off if you're overdoing it or if you're taking on too much, and you can kind of learn that after a period of time of doing this work. But like you, when you're you know how far to go when you journey, where
Right.
you're going to come back, and and it's really the stones that I put on my body also help with that. I've always worn rose quartz, and I always try to wear something that is protective, or something that is enhances a certain thing. And I think spirit tells me that before I start a session, and I know what I'm supposed to wear, the type of jewelry that I'm supposed to wear, and it's always crystals.
Do you feel like what the experience of wearing the crystals feels to me is that they're sharing your aura and your energy field? Um, and, there was a point where I was kind of in a fake it till you make it space of I would wear them, but I wouldn't have that level of awareness of their energy or the attunement. And so it was really a trust of like, okay, this stone means this. I'm trusting that that's in play. But now, after years of developing these relationships, I feel like, okay, I put the labradorite on and I can feel the aura of the stone
Mhm.
intermingling with my own aura. And there's that intuitive knowing of the properties that it has. And it's like when you go back to the programming, I guess it's like we have a program and then the stone has these properties. And so we're able to connect with those and everything gets amplified. It's really a cool experience. It's really pretty
It's
neat.
like they're hitching a ride on your shoulder, like a little fairy
Yeah,
or an elemental that's going for the ride with you, and it's like, here we go,
right.
and kind of how it feels. And afterwards, they still have their own energy, but they will share with you. If you listen, if you talk to them, they'll share with you how much fun they had, or how much they enjoyed it, or they want to do it again. And you'll pick up that same thing again and take it with you. And it's a relationship. You develop a
Right.
relationship with them. Like some people have fairies, some people have water sprites, they see different things. And when you develop this relationship with crystals, if you can walk in a shop and your eyes will go directly to a certain crystal that's calling you to come and look at it and talk to it and touch it and buy it. It's like
Yes.
it's beckoning you, so it's time for it to come into your being, into your circle. And it is kind of like here we go, like your dog. When you take your dog, here we go, you hook them up and you walk out the door, and whatever happens happens. And the crystals are more ready than we are. They're
Right.
out there in front of us.
Yeah, and I think that yeah, it's just lovely. It's making me think too about, obviously they're minerals, they're from the earth, and there's this balance there of we may connect. You were mentioning the water sprites and the fairies. And so I do have my guides that I'm connected to all the time. And that's a relationship as well. Those are relationships that have been cultivated over time. And so if I'm going into a journey, certain guides, depending on the situation, are coming with me. And there's a balance in the crystals and the stones are here on earth. They're a part of earth. They're in the 3D, but they're also magical. They're intuitive. There's all these incredible properties. There's a balance in being able to take that into, and it doesn't just have to be a ritual, but it could be your meditation, or again, we're wearing them or we've got them in our car, to take them along with you for the ride, as you're saying, like they're hitching a ride. And then we also have this knowing that our guides are there for the ride too, right? Like that's a sort of different channel, maybe, or a different dimension. Or so I just bring that up because it's like there's this layering of the earth energy all the way into the cosmic higher chakra energies in terms of what we can connect with in any moment. And as we increase our awareness, we're able to be connected to multiple energies in any given time, which is really incredible. And I think it leads to a deeper experience of whatever our spiritual journey is while we're here.
Mhm. Some people have told me, and I've never witnessed this in person, but there are people that have surgery or they have procedures done where they ask the physician if they can place crystals around or on their body. And as long as they are sanitized, if they're bringing them in to, maybe they wouldn't do it in open heart surgery or something, but they have allowed them,
Right.
and there's absolutely no bleeding. And it's
Wow.
interesting to know that, the power of that belief that that person has, the faith that they have in those crystals is what's generating that. And that's the protectiveness of these crystals. They have a job, and they can keep you from bleeding. And isn't that amazing to think that
It
just putting
is.
stones around or on your body, and then the doctor does the work and there's no blood, there's no um, bleeding, excessive
And the
bleeding.
power of that intention. I mean, they're assuming they're under anesthesia, then, this is not happening in a conscious way where they're like, praying in the moment or they're thinking of the intent. They've already set the intention and the belief is so strong.
Well, I
It's a
read this
strong program.
when I was saying fear and faith. I knew this was going to come in today. Fear and faith ask the same of you to believe in something you can't see. So when you go
Right?
into surgery and they put you in a anesthetic coma or whatever, and you're not conscious, your being is not, your physical being is not awake, but your consciousness is there.
Yes.
It is having faith and not being afraid. And when you place that energy into the crystals, they're doing the work for you while you are unconscious, quote unquote, because your consciousness is never asleep.
Uh,
Your higher self is always watching the surgeons and, aware of what they're doing and what you're going through, even though you may not be present or not be aware.
mm-hmm.
I find that really fascinating because if we just put our faith in whatever the outcome is supposed to be, that will be, that will happen.
Yes.
It usually will.
Right.
So,
Especially when it's more clear, when we don't have, static in our thoughts or we don't second guess ourselves. When you
right.
really do have the faith and the clarity, you see the results.
Mhm. Yeah, it's beautiful.
One of my other favorites that I wanted to mention today is carnelian. So I have like just a little tiny one here, but if you're listening, it's a blood red stone. It's sometimes like a brownish red, and like all of them, it has many properties. But the ones for me personally over the years that have been so impactful is it's connected to inner confidence, and it's also connected to your health, and particularly for women, balancing energies and balancing hormones, balancing on a physical level. It helps to do that as well. And years ago I had a stone carnelian ring, and it was one of those rings that the whole thing is stone that you can get at a crystal shop. And a lot of times those break, after you've just had it for, I'm going to say, less than a year. When I've had other stone rings like that, that's been the case. This one, I mean, I had for, I'm going to say 20 years. It eventually did break, but I never took it. I wore it on my middle finger on my right hand, and I never took it off. And it must have just been the way that it sat. It was like nice and safe and cozy in there, but it was along for a big stretch of the ride. And recently I've been thinking, oh, like I'd like to bring that energy back into my aura, because I know how I could really feel how the ring had an imprint in my energy field, and how it did helped me to like navigate self-confidence, especially in the earlier years that I had it. And then I took it off for a couple of years and then put it back on. And that's when the properties of balance, coming more from a place of, for a woman and for hormones and health wise, it came into play. And so you can look it up and it has other properties, but this is a really, really powerful one. It's
They
just a
say it's
favorite.
the performer's stone that like singers and, for
Yes.
performers, that it gives the confidence that you need to really channel that art or that, music or the lyric or whatever. When you wear carnelian, it's I think it's been called a singer's stone. So the confidence, so a lot of people have stage fright and they wear that,
Mm-hmm.
and it allows a better connection with whatever you're delivering, because the secret of having confidence is when you approach anything, if you're confident, it seems to go better, whatever you're
Right.
thinking or however you. So that's wonderful that you had it that long. That's really.
Yeah. And, I think the confidence piece was about the ego getting out of the way. And this is the angle of the ego that is more like, oh, what is someone going to say? Or like concerned about how you're perceived in that sense. So,
You
yes,
sing
there's,
in your journey, you sing, you tone, and if you
yes.
care, you when you're doing it, you just are in a place where your voice is being used by spirit. So, you have a
Yeah.
certain confidence that what is coming through is going to vibrationally, just like tuning forks or the bowls or anything, your voice is going to make a difference in that person's energy field, in their aura. So that may have, I would probably be a little bit reluctant to sing, to tone, or to bring through
Yes.
sounds like that, and when you do it, it's magical. It's really
That, well, thank you for saying that. And it's actually a great example because, outside of the ritual context or in the sessions, like, I don't know, when I was a kid in chorus or something like that, I did not have what would be considered a good voice. I mean, I was like roughly a second soprano. Like, it just wasn't one of my seemingly God-given talents, right? But that's exactly this. It's the me getting out of the way and having the faith and confidence and trust that what is coming through is, divine and meant and all of that. And it's like I can be in the space and hear it coming through and have this awareness, like it's so not me. I mean, I hope I'm making sense in that. It's like there's nothing ego related. It's like the energies are coming from sometimes spirit guides or, another place. And then the trust that, like you said, it's the frequency that someone is meant to hear or experience or the message that's coming through. So there's a big piece of getting out of your own way, which I think everyone can relate to, just translating that to what does that look like for you in your life and maybe in your profession.
Well, anything that you do, whenever you bring forth voices or any sound or words or anything that we use our vocal cords to do, like a lyric of a song, if you can bring the emotion out of the person listening, and what that's doing, you're putting this energy somewhere, wherever it goes. We don't need to know. We don't have to
Yes.
attach to the outcome of where it goes, because at some level, it's touching everybody. When you would do the toning in ritual or in ceremony with me, everyone in the room picked up something different from it. But it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
It doesn't really matter, because where it's coming from and where it's going is just like when you strum a guitar or you hit a piano, and the vibration, or drumming, it all has to do with tones and where um, our physical body, how it transmutes that into something else. And that's the amazing part of the stones and anything that we use that absorbs these things. Like, you can program a crystal and have it with you, and it'll just still remember, and it'll still do whatever you want it to do for time eternal. If you just start programming that and carry it with you, it's not going to say, when are we going to stop doing this? Or what day can we not? It's going to just go on, and the ripple effect, it's just endless, the good that it's doing. And that's like what you're talking about with the cornelian. I wear it all the time. I love it. I love the color. I love the vibration. And sometimes I just am drawn to go get that particular necklace. It's a heart that I have, and
Oh, yes.
feel like I'm supposed to wear it that day. I don't know
Right.
what tells me that or how that it must call out to me that it wants to go with me that day or it wants to help me with my confidence that day or something. But um, yeah, it's not about the colors and matching my outfit. It's more about this today I'm going to wear this carnelian heart, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that's a beautiful stone. I love it too.
Another one that I have here is citrine. And I think that's one of the ones that you chose as well. So
I
this
know.
is a point. Uh, but I chose a few again that are really my favorites that come up often, and the citrine comes up often for me to balance also around health and home. So I have citrine points in my fruit bowl in the kitchen, and I feel like it health wise it amplifies the nutrition of the fruit. It cleanses the fruit. So I always have it in there. I have a water pitcher with a couple of different crystals, and citrine is one of the ones in there as well. So over the years, depending on what's going on in my life, how it would come into play might change a little bit. But for me, and it has many properties like all of them, the health piece and also protection at home has been like the core trusty aspects of this one. And it usually has a bit of an orangey tone to it, but this one's also very quartz like at the same time.
I'm always drawn to citrine in a display when I go to a crystal shop. I for some reason it's like bottled sunshine. It just looks
Yes.
like optimism and encouragement, and it has this like a sun-like quality.
Yes.
So it brings optimism, wealth, and abundance. And you know, it's supposed to be the stone of wealth and prosperity. And prosperity isn't and abundance are not about money. It can be opportunity. It can be like you talked about the food and nourishing your body, what you put in it. But it has this. It's like sunshine on a rainy day. It just pops into my, and I have it in a spot in front of my plants where the sun hits it. And every time I look at it, I just feel better. I can't explain
Yes.
it. It's just, I like touching it. I have a couple of with double terminated, but the yellowish citrine color, you know, which is like, it just
Right.
fascinates me. And I've always been drawn to that one. I have several pieces, but yeah, I think to give you a positive outlook for the day, if you have it with you, or I know a lot of people that carry it with them. You know, they have it and they put it in their on their pocket or in their purse or in, you know, like on their body and in jewelry. And I have a citrine ring that I wore in readings for years. I've worn this ring, and for some reason, it just feels good to have it on my finger because it's like I can have a more optimistic, um, like what I'm looking for to tell my client. I can have a more optimistic outlook. You know, it's just interesting how it brings me clarity on the optimistic part of the reading. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, let me give you a good thing. This might be a bad thing, but then let me give you something that's more optimistic and a way to turn this around. And that kind of segues into what we're talking about with this year. You know, like how
Yeah.
we want to go from what seemed like one of the worst years we've experienced in the economy and the government and all of the BS, if you can say that, um, you know, to zero in on how we can use what we've experienced and bring it in and integrate anything that is good for us from it and let go of the rest, you know, to cleanse that
Right.
energy. And the stones are going to be vital in that to cleanse this energy and let go of this negative charge that we have in this year. Celebrate the holidays, enjoy this last month, give crystals as gifts, buy them for yourself, for your home. We all have everything we need. We all have telephones, we all have appliances, we all have clothing. We don't need for anyone else to give us a gift like that. And we don't need to give anyone a gift like that. If you want to give someone something beautiful and long lasting, give a crystal as a gift.
Yeah.
And you can choose or ask them a little bit about their feelings or whatever and buy something appropriate that you think will enhance their experience for 2025 and give them to people that you know need help, even if they don't know what it's doing, you're giving that with love from your heart and you're giving it to them to enhance their experience, to get rid of some of the negative and bring in the positive. So with the ones we've talked about today, all of these would be beautiful, but you can look it up online and buy a beginner set of maybe 5 or 6 or even 7 of the chakra crystals that all emulate the colors of our chakras, our energy centers. And I think it's something that is appropriate right now because we have to bring positive energy to this next year. It is still going
Yes.
to be a little bit chaotic, and there's going to be a lot of adjustment, I want to say, adapting and adjusting to new things and watching old paradigms shift, watching things change. And I've been telling people this, for it's going to be a bumpy ride. I can see it coming. It's going to be a bumpy ride. So keep your hands inside the car, put your bar down, strap your belt on, whatever you need to do to weather the storm that's coming, and use these rituals and these ceremonies and these things that are beyond belief systems, that are a knowing of what you have control of. You have control of you. You have control of your
Right.
heart and your thinking, and think with heart-centered, heart coherent, um, look into heart math um, and feel, and instead of thinking, feel and go forward just with your feelings and the things that guide you from inside. Don't let all of the periphery and all of the noise, it's just like static, put in earplugs and just tune it out and really get to the heart of it and how you can live a better life and be a better person. And then that will hopefully go to your neighbors and your friends and your family and your surroundings. But I think that, the rituals that we both do and the things that it's a personal choice what a person wants to do, if they want to meditate or if they just want to do yoga, but start something spiritual in 20.
Yes.
Start
And
with.
I think, yeah, part of, in the beginning, I mentioned ritual coming up in this synchronistic way. I had that one week where between the chapter in the book and the meeting and the nonprofit, that it was kind of at the forefront. But part of, to take that just a little bit deeper, and this connects to what you're saying, part of why I feel that is culturally we don't always have a place to express and release our emotion or to integrate things. So if we're in a tumultuous time and our emotions are going up and down, or we're navigating energy that's a little more chaotic, sometimes it creates a pressurized situation within our system, all the layers, physical, energetic, when we feel like we can't express it, or it's not appropriate, or we're trying to figure that out. And rituals can be for releasing grief, they can be for initiation, they can be for celebration. There's a lot of different reasons or ways it makes sense to have a ritual, but also importantly, it's a space that allows you to move the energy. So maybe it's moving this emotion or to integrate something, making this space to fully acknowledge your experience so that, it's not partially integrated and creating static or even disease in your experience. So to have that opportunity to let it move, which, citrine was the last one that you mentioned, and just that brightness, that sunshine, that optimism, that energy is going to help move some of the heavier energies and to catalyze things throughout the year. It's going to be really supportive. So that piece I think is exciting. It's empowering that we can bring it in for all of these different ways, and know that we're empowered around our own experience. And then in 2025, it feels like, who do I want to be? Like you said, being a good person, being a kind person. And then, even getting more specific with that for each of us individually, given the context of the year. Or, I mean, we don't know all of it yet, right? But as we experience that and feel into it, and as it unfolds, it's, who do I want to be in this? And how do I want to show up in this? Sometimes we can get caught up in things that are not fully in our control. But what is in our control is who we are and how we show up every moment, day to day. And the crystals and the ritual can really help with that. I've been, utilizing some of this even more in the past couple of months, and it's really helped me to stay in a space of more equilibrium. Whereas if I hadn't done that, I think I'd be freaking out a little.
Well, I knew that these things were going to come to in a space today in this container, what we're creating. And
Yes.
I have to read this because I think that people have gotten away from self-love. And it says, the greatest tool for overcoming the ego, healing the shadows, raising your vibration, and transcending the human condition is to learn to love all of yourself unconditionally. And it brings me into the rose quartz world because rose quartz is a heart stone. It's one of the most beautiful shades of pink. I mean, it's soft, it's gentle. We have to be gentle with ourselves and not judgmental of ourselves because we're learning. You know, this is all about learning. It's not about
Right.
knowing everything. We're supposed to learn something every day of our life. And I do. I learn something every day, and I want to continue to do that. But rose quartz, I have a really pretty piece of it here. This looks like you could eat it. It's like cotton candy.
Mm-hmm.
If we balance the math between our head and our heart and start doing things more creative, more right-brained, art and creative anything, it brings us to a place where we can just express our love, and we can program our crystals with love. We can keep them around us and feel loved. And I think rose quartz has so many properties that reflect around the heart. And we tend to think that we are flawed when we come into this world. We're not flawed. We're one of the most perfect creations ever. And we have all this power, we have all this strength. But on the other side, in the other dimension, when we step across, there's only love. We leave all these other emotions behind. So, how much energy do you really want to give to those negative emotions and the ones that don't serve us? We want to be
Right.
in a place of love with everything that we do and everything that we think. And if we don't love ourselves, we can't love anything or anyone else. And that's a real battle for most people because they can look out, but going in is a different journey. It's like when you look in the mirror, you're not really seeing yourself. You're seeing a reverse image of yourself. You're not seeing yourself the way others see you. And people
Right.
look at you and they say, oh, you look nice today or whatever. And when you look at yourself, you see something flawed, and it's just a reflection. So when you go into a heart-centered life and you do everything with love, the intention is out there and you're giving that to everyone. And you're, like James Taylor said, shower the people you love with love. Everything we do if we think of it as, is this something that is kind? Is this something that is meaningful or has a bearing on what we're talking about? Don't say anything until you put it past those gates. Don't.
Mm,
I think the Buddha might have said something like that at some point. I've read that, but always think, is this beneficial? Is this kind? Is this helpful? Before you speak, before you say anything, your opinion or your thoughts or whatever. Um, I feel like people think that they love others and they really don't love themselves. And the only way that you can be loved is to be lovable. And if you love yourself, and you know that you're doing the right thing while you're here in this incarnation, then you can't do anything what would be termed wrong. And I don't like that, right and wrong and the duality of this dimension. But
right.
if you think that you might not be doing things the right way, if it's heart centered and you do it in the name of love or for the best of all, for the highest good of all, then I think that you've been successful as a person.
Hmm.
Any rituals that we do or any kind of ceremonies that we do, they don't have to mean anything to anybody else. If you tap your head and dance around in a circle and sing for 3 minutes or something and that makes you feel better, who cares?
Right.
Whatever you want that makes you feel good. And when you feel good, then it's a domino, the ripple effect. It just goes out that day. If you smile, I've driven up to people and they're just grumpy and I'll just go like, and they'll just start laughing or smiling because they realize how grumpy they looked. And
Right.
and if you smile at people that are not smiling, usually they will smile back. So
Right.
even if you don't ever see that person again, maybe you changed that day for them or you changed that vibration or whatever. So I just feel at this time of year, we say it's a sacred time. We say it's about celebrating, a person who was a prophet and who came here. I don't really think to save us, but to show us how to be and how to act. And that's with love.
Right.
I think that the message was do like things like I'll teach you how to be a good person, how to love. And it's not, something that, I mean, anyone could say that. Any messenger, anybody that comes into this existence can teach us that. So whoever we choose to ritualize or celebrate or whatever, it's meaningful to us. And if it goes out and extends into the collective, then all the better. And I really think that's something that you're good at. You when you do your ceremonies, they're so heartfelt and your sound baths and everything, and you are just magical in that way. And I know that you've affected me, and it's taught me a lot. And I think any ritual that you participate in adds a dimension to each person. Whether it's your ritual or someone else's. If you find something that makes you feel good, practice it, do it.
Well, I love that you're saying that and that it can be whatever you want it to be, and it only needs to have meaning to you because the creative piece is in there. You recognize, oh my gosh, I have this blank canvas. Depending on what it is, the ritual is going to be around. I can choose. There can be song, there can be dance, there can be crystal, it could be anything.
Mhm.
And then you create the meaning from what really resonates. So that creative piece, I mean, there's just a freedom in that is so, it's like you can reach into every possibility in every dimension and just come out with this cool, unique thing for the time. And then there's something about that too. Like there's never going to be anything exactly like it. So that makes it special as well.
Right. Well, and the uncertainty of the future, if we cannot look too far back or too far forward, and I've said this before, live in the moment and take from it whatever is there, and just, like when you're eating a meal that has a good flavor and a nice texture and a good temperature, and you feel that savoring that moment. That's the way we need to look at life. We need to look at savoring each moment and each thing that we do. And the intention is really all that matters, because we're putting that out into the field. And if our intentions are always good and they are always loving and they're heart based, it can't do harm. It can't do anything but make it better.
Right.
Yeah.
So so this is a little bit of a different angle than what we discussed, but what I'd like to do we're towards the end now, is just a small ritual that brings in the crystals. And so I have a grid here, which I don't know how it will show up a little bit in the view. But basically it's just a small wooden circle with the flower of life on it. And I've placed the crystals, some of the ones we've discussed, the hematite and citrine and carnelian, and on the grid, and just set the intention really at the beginning of the podcast that it would come together, if that makes sense. So it was sort of loose, but part of the intention too that was coming into the crystals, and that is for this next few minutes, is around coming into a space that is cleansing any energies that don't serve us to move forward into this next year and this next cycle, and to uplift our energy for 2025, so that we have everything we need to move through it in, I'm going to say, the highest frequency, or just the highest way, whatever that looks like for our own personal journey. Um, and Betty, if you're okay with it, I'm going to just guide us into it. But then once in the space, I feel like it's really about whatever messages come through to you, to share with the group.
Well, the like I said, everything that I said it before in one of our previous podcasts, the change is the only thing we can ever count on. Everything is changing. And if we can embrace that for this new year and respect that all of this has to happen to make it better, if we cannot criticize others, if we can um, have faith in a change and not look too far forward, just take everything day by day and look at the positive things that happen and the immense amount of good that there is on this planet, and the experience of being a person, being incarnated, and why we all came here to make it a better place and to enhance our spirit. If people just look forward, but not too far forward, don't go backward, just, stay where you are and try to, accept that the chaos and what seems to be destruction is a necessary part of the change, and it's an illusion. It's all going to be gone and it'll change for the better as long as we all feel and think that way. So I guess it's like I said, practice self-love, only take care of your yard and your house and your being and your things, and don't worry about others. Don't worry about their what they're doing. They're all on their path. Just have respect for yourself, and moving forward, choose a ritual or a ceremony. It doesn't matter how simple or how, you don't have to know how to do it. Choose something that enlightens you or makes you feel better, like you're moving forward with this shift. Because it's not just the people that are shifting, the planet's shifting. And the respect that I have for the earth and the divine feminine coming into balance. We say Mother Nature, we say Gaia, Mother Earth, all of it's the feminine energy, balancing what has been, kind of a blood soaked battle, a spiritual battle, and hoping that this change and that all of the shift that the planet's going through will make it a better place for us to live while we're here. Just heartfelt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So going to close in just a couple of moments, but I'm just going to encourage everyone to, whatever space you're in, take some deeper breaths and recognize that on these inhales and exhales, you're inhaling in the frequency of these crystals, the hematite, the citrine, the carnelian, amethyst, and just feeling what it feels like in your physical body as you inhale and connect with those frequencies and energies. And then exhaling, just allowing those exhales to be the release, to be the cleansing. And we're always setting an intention that this is a transmission for the highest good of all. So just knowing that you're in a receptive space, not just for the information, but again, for the energies, and that these energies will be healing. They will lead to recalibration in your system, and to know that there's a gift in this. So just being in a space of awareness that something may shift later on today or in the coming days or hours. There may be a connection that you make, an awareness of what has shifted to come into this alignment for the next cycle, or maybe some of what has been shed. Just taking a couple more deep inhales and exhales. And then allowing yourself to gently shift into a more grounded space. So if you've had your eyes closed, gently blinking the eyes open, beginning to bring some movement into the body. Taking those deeper breaths, feeling your feet solid on the ground, feeling well grounded and connected to the earth. And I just want to say thank you so much to my co-host, Betty, who brings such enlightened information to this experience and just such a profound angle to things that I really love and appreciate. And then Betty, if you want to move through the closing for us. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Betty's website is wherethelightis.net. And I'll put those details below. I'm at pavansarona.com. Have a wonderful holiday season. Wishing you peace and presence.
Okay, and I want to thank you for everything that you bring to the podcast and to my life. And I enjoy doing this with you. And I know that it's helping some people, and whoever it reaches is who it's supposed to reach. And I do wish everyone a safe and enjoyable, relaxing Christmas and New Year's. We'll see you after the first of the year again with something new and exciting and something that, helps everyone, hopefully. So may we meet again, sit in circle, tending our hearts, cultivating our shared love and joy, supporting the ascension of our beautiful planet. Until then, our light to yours.
Our light to yours. Thank you all.
Thank you.